undergrad students who didn't get a chance.
It's Morphin time!
Welcome to a brand new episode of Talks with Dorks, your go-to geek podcast. And I can safely say this is going to be a special one. Let's introduce the boys from the team that are here tonight. Laferde's with me. Laferde, how you doing, mate?
Hey, mate, I'm all right. Doing better than ever, actually.
Yeah? I hope that's to do with what we're doing tonight.
It definitely has a massive help, yeah.
And Tony of Bingus himself is here. Tony, how are you, bud?
I'm better than good. I'm feeling great. I'm really excited about this.
Would you say, boys, we're feeling a little bit more phenomenal?
More than a bit.
Okay, without further ado, and I cannot actually believe I'm saying this, please welcome our very special guest to Talks with Dorks, the man that is probably the most famous floating head in the whole of the universe, Zordon of Eltar himself, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers his own, David J. Fielding. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, and welcome to Talks with Dorks.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. Great to meet you guys.
I don't even know where to start, guys, because just saying that out loud, I've been saying that in my head for the last 24 hours that I'm going to have to say this and introduce this gentleman to our podcast that we are all... We're dying to get this conversation started, right? So, boys, let me take a second, because I've been doing a little bit of talking. Please welcome David, and someone fire away the first question while I take this in.
All right.
Go on, I'll let you. You're older.
Cheers, mate. Well, David, I think we should start from the beginning. We've had a little catch up with you and found out a little bit about your background growing up over here.
Yeah.
So you were born in Cali, and then you moved Florida. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then you moved over to Ipswich, which is quite the climate change and way of life is much different. So how did that come about, and why did you take that move?
Well, my father was in the Air Force, so that's where he met my mother. He had been stationed at Rice-Lip Air Force Base, and had been introduced to my mother at a pub or something like that, and they hit it off really well, so they started dating, and then they got married in 1961, and then they came back to the States, and I was 2 months shy of being born in England, which would have been really awesome, because if I'd had the dual citizenship as soon as I'd turned 18, I would have gone back over there.
All right.
But once my brother and sister were born, we flew back to England because Dad had requested to be stationed there or whatever. And we actually weren't living in Ipswich at the time. That's the area that my mother was from. But we were in, I believe it was South Harrow, like a suburb of London. And that's where I spent like some early part of my childhood. I remember watching stuff on television and falling in love with all of the magazines and comics that I would pick up at the chip shop, and so I grew up with Bill and Ben, the Flower Pot Man, and I would see there was a dog and a roustabout, and on the evening television, I would catch glimpses of like the Avengers TV show or Doctor Who or whatever. And then when I was 4, I began going to school, and that's where I first learned how to read and write and all that kind of stuff. So when I came back to the States in 1970, I was reading 2 or 3 grades ahead of my classmates, just simply because I love to read anything, with words. I was just picking it up and reading it. And, so, I mean, I loved being there, and I got a chance to go back to visit my cousins and my uncles and aunts, in the early 90s. And in 2017, I think they brought us over to Ireland to do, 10 days. We did a convention in Belfast, and then we did a convention in Dublin, and they were trying to get us over to, I want to say, might have been in Wales somewhere. There was a convention there that we were supposed to go to, but it fell through at the last minute, and I would have loved to have gone back, uh, just to any chance to get over to where my mom's roots are from. So yeah.
So with
Well,
your family being Air Force, I think there'd be a tie-in there to parachute performances.
I'm not sure.
So parachute. Oh, okay. So this is something I've picked up on that your dad brought home a disused or old parachute from work, and you used that as a stage backdrop.
Yes, of course. Yeah, when we were living in Colorado Springs, because when we came back from England, Dad was stationed in Michigan for a year, and then we got moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the Air Force Academy. And he was working in the motor pool. He would drive all of the other cadets about here and there. I remember riding on the bus with him to take the Air Force Academy football team to a game, and I was just really uh, into football at that time, and at some point he had picked up an old parachute that had like a large rip in it or whatever. So he brought it home for us kids to sort of like play around with. It was something. And because I was such a had a very strong performative streak in me, even as a kid, I would force my parents to watch me reenact my comic books, and we had hung up the parachute as sort of like a stage curtain, and I would draw it apart, and we would just act out Batman and Superman and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty wild.
every
That's a
performer
pretty
starts
deep cut.
somewhere.
So, yeah.
Tony was really like going into like the background stuff, looking into your history, and I'm so glad he found it, because everything we were questioning before, Tone, is stuff that Davy's now confirmed. And
Uh-huh.
like I believe like it was over here you found your love for sci-fi, is that right? And British sci-fi was kind of something that you grew up on, and it
Oh
later
yeah,
became
I
part of
mean,
your work.
my first crush ever was oh shoot, I'm gonna get yelled at. Diana Rigg from the Avengers. Emma Peel was my first crush, and uh, I love The Prisoner. I love Doctor Who. So I mean, there's so much British television that's great, and right now, Slow Horses is just fabulous. So I mean, uh, I have very strong ties to the UK. So yeah.
That's great. So, in the case of Doctor Who, would be your Doctor? Obviously, Doctor Who's been strong now for over 60 years. Who did
Yeah.
you grow up with? Or is your Doctor one of the originals, or are you back into it more
Well,
now?
I didn't actually follow Doctor Who. I know Doctor Who. I've watched a number of episodes of Doctor Who. I've sat next to Colin at conventions, and
Of course, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, uh, Peter Capaldi is fantastic. I think he's
Oh,
like one of my favorite Doctor Who's. So yeah,
I'm a Tennant guy, but I think
yeah,
Peter Capaldi, like, because of the. So he gets a little bit of. Because he was a more angrier, frustrated Doctor, but
yeah.
only real
I think
Doctor
that's where
Who
I'm at
fans
these days.
understood. Yeah, yeah,
I think that's
right.
where I'm at these days. So Peter Capaldi really kind of like, you know, speaks for
That
me on a whole level, because there's that one episode where he's like, they're going to war or whatever, and he's telling, nobody wins in a war and everything. So yeah, I think Peter's my guy.
I think because as well people like who aren't old school Doctor Who fans, they miss the point of how old this guy is now when he is Peter Capaldi. He's not just regenerated into an older looking Doctor. He is probably feeling that way because of everything he's gone through. He's at a
Yeah.
point of, you know, needing to stop and smell the roses really, but he doesn't. That's the Doctor. But that's why I love that. And I don't know about you boys, but when David, when you mentioned your first crush, I sat there and I was like, who was my first crush? And it's first celebrity crush
Baby
is one
Joe.
of the reasons. Yeah, it's one of the reasons we're all here to talk. Is I think like most
Baby
boys that
Joe.
grew up in that grew up in the 90s, it was our favourite Pink Ranger. I
Uh,
had books at school that literally used to have "I love AJJ" at the age of 7, like Ryan Hart's AJJ forever. You know that kind of stuff all over your school
that's
books that you
hilarious.
write. So
My sister's named after her as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. My mum left it up to me to have a short list of names, and I only gave her Amy. And yeah, that's it. Amy Louise is my sister, named after Amy Jo.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
my partner's name is Katrina, but one of the things that sold me on a relationship with her the day we met was she was like, "Hey, I'm Katrina, but everybody calls me Trini." I was like, "Okay, you're the one for me." It's absolutely, I've got my own Yellow Ranger to come home to. It's
Oh,
absolutely brilliant.
awesome.
So, David, I mean, there's a big part of why we're here to talk, and Power Rangers. I mean, you are part of the original of something that us three grew up with. Obviously, Laferde, you're a little bit younger, but Mighty Morphin is you're as that's how we
More
met.
than a little bit. We'll put that out there.
More
More
than
than a little bit.
yeah, you're exactly on the same level as us. So let's dive into the world that we I suppose that we want to know about. Laferde, I know you're probably sitting there thinking of a million questions about Power Rangers that you may have wanted to ask. Now is your opportunity. Take it away.
I waited 31 years for this. This is like up there with my biggest achievements in life.
I'm just going to disappoint you. Every answer is going to be, I don't know.
Oh, okay. I actually only have one Power Ranger specific question for you.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So obviously Zordon, he picked the Rangers, he picked the colours of the Rangers. What colour would you reckon Zordon would want to be if he was a Ranger?
That's a great question.
Excluding the 2017 film, sorry.
Yeah, my understanding is though that Zordon doesn't pick the Rangers or their colors.
Okay.
Those are chosen by the grid.
Right.
So
Yes,
Zordon
true.
That's a good point, yeah.
as a mentor is just guiding them. He's not responsible for you're going to be blue, you're going to be yellow or whatever. He's just there to sort of mentor them through their uh,
Their
uh,
journey.
yeah. So once they accept the mantle of being a hero, and then he guides them. But honestly, uh, I was a big fan of Billy because I wore glasses. I was very nerdy in school, and the Triceratops was my favorite dinosaur. So
Oh,
if I was going to choose a color, it would be blue. Yeah.
Great.
and
And
you got the
that's
blue check shirt on as well for it tonight. Very
Dropping
in
in.
character.
Right.
to be,
Right.
to be fair, if you look at it, to be fair, we're almost a full team here. We just need a pink and yellow. We've got black, green, blue, and red.
Yeah.
If we had two more people join in that were yellow and pink, we'd be sorted for an entire
Yeah.
team of six.
Yeah.
And I think, like, as someone that came from that original Power Rangers, and obviously I've listened to other podcasts, and I know that you were talking about it yesterday on the live as well, how you got your process of becoming Zordon, what it was like for you. But like my friend Dan, who when I texted him saying you're never going to guess who we're interviewing, I said, look, if you've got a question, I'll put it to him now. He made a very good point. What was like for you? When you got this part, did you know that this is going to be something special? Obviously, it had its Japanese counterpart that was super successful out there. This was kind of like is this going to work? There was two versions of what it was going to be. What for you? At what point did you think this is going to be something and this is going to be phenomenal?
I didn't get any idea about how big it was going to be until after I'd left the show.
Yeah,
So the way the process worked was that I had moved to Los Angeles in the summer of 1992. Got to Los Angeles middle of August that year. And the audition for the show was in October. So I'd only been in LA for a couple of months. And I thought that was very unusual or rare that somebody would show up in LA and then 2 months later they would be on a kids television show. Um, so I felt very lucky in that sense that I got picked for that. Um, there was an immediate letdown, though. However, once that we had finished the pilot and we were informed that it got picked up to be put on the air, I was informed that I would not be filmed anymore, that I would just come
right.
in and
Yeah,
do voices and stuff. So it was kind of a letdown in that way because I wasn't able to get a hold of the same sort of television actor experience that the other guys had, where they were on set every day, 6 days a week, 14 hours every day, working on this show and feeling like you were making it happen. Um, because I would only get called in every 4 to 6 weeks to do 4 or 5 episodes of lines and then go home and not hear anything for another month or whatever until they needed to be brought in. So by the time the show went on the air in August of 1993, I was burned out with LA. I was tired of living there. I was afraid I was going to be living under a bridge from week to week because I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So I made the decision to leave LA and move back to the East Coast. And Tony Oliver, one of the head writers of the show, was trying to, tell me, just stick it out another 6 months, just stick it out. It's going to blow up. And I'm like, I'm ready now. And in hindsight, I probably would have given myself that extra 6 months just to see. But that's not the path that I was on. So I just, ended up doing that. But it wasn't because I was unhappy working on the show. It wasn't because the show didn't have anything to do with the show. It was just that when I had gone to LA, I had gone out there later than most uh, would go. Like most actors that I know that go out to LA are in their really early 20s. They're 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. And you're, I hope I can curse on this show.
You can say what you like.
You're
Uh,
Zordon.
yeah,
Yeah, you're sort of. We take questions from you and only you.
your tolerance for how much bullshit you'll put up with when you're 20, 21, and 23 is a lot higher than what it is when you're 30. So
Mm.
when I moved to LA, I was 29. When I got cast on the show, I was 29. When the show was aired in August of 93, I was 30 years old. So my personality was fully formed. My uh how I dealt with people on a day-to-day kind of basis, my being able to sniff out this is a crap situation kind of thing was a lot stronger. And I wasn't going to put up with somebody saying, "Hey, you need to shovel this crap for about a year before anything's going to happen." I was like, you know what? It doesn't really seem it worth it to me then. So I did sort of like have my bucket list moment, my checklist of I went to LA, I went through the audition process, I spent time out there, got to go to improv classes with a bunch of great actors, and I got a TV gig. I was actually on television, my face was there, you could see my name. Wow, I did that. That's fantastic. And so I thought that, okay, well, I checked that box off. Now let's go see what else is going to happen. And that's the major reason why I left LA and left the show behind. Not because I was being treated badly or poorly or anything like that. I was just burned out. I was just like, no, I don't think this is for me. I didn't want to, because I was taking improv classes at a place called the LA Connection in LA. And, uh, we would after rehearsals for improvs, we would go out to Denny's or some other restaurant and bullshit with each other for 2 or 3 hours talking about what we did or whatever, or what your experience was living in LA. And I heard so many people say, "Yeah, I've been working at this working at this thing for 15 years, and I had a chance at a commercial, but it kind of fell through." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I've been out here for 2 months, and I got cast on TV." So there was that sort of like small amount of guilt. Like I, I really don't feel like I had worked long enough to actually get to that point. But I was very grateful for that bolt of lightning that struck, and there I was, and boom. And if you watch the original pilot that they had aired for the studios, Zordon doesn't look anything like Zordon does in the show that
Yeah.
made it to air. He's like this big green blob of jello. And so I was very grateful that they cleaned that up so you could actually see that it was my face. And I remember being at a friend's house when it first aired at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and seeing my name on the television. I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And So yeah, I did that, and then I moved back to the East Coast. So
Is the East Coast, is that um, again something else that I've read up? Was that Pittsburgh you moved over to?
yeah, I moved back to Pittsburgh. I had got my Master's of Fine Arts in Acting from the University of Pittsburgh, and I had a lot of great friends that lived there. So I moved back to a safe place and met back up with my friends and got my feet back under me and started doing work and doing voices for video games, voices for commercials, acting with a murder mystery dinner theater troupe, and just uh, enjoying my life at that point.
Was that, sorry if I butcher the pronunciation of that, is that the Susquehanna Hat Company?
The
That
Susquehanna
troupe?
Hat Company was something that we had done while I was still at the Masters of Fine Arts program. Um, when I was going to the University of Pittsburgh, one of my classmates, Jeffrey DeVincent, who works at SCAD, the South Carolina Arts Drama Program, and or Savannah, it's in Savannah, Georgia. Sorry, not South Carolina. Um, he started an improv on Friday nights called Friday Night Improvs for all of the undergrad students who didn't get a chance to perform very much with the master students. So every Friday night at 11 p.m., we would all go into the basement of the Cathedral of Learning and we would do 3 hours of improv. And we had like this mini game show atmosphere. I don't know if you guys watch Dropout TV with Game Changer and all the fantastic people like Brennan Lee Mulligan who are on that show now. Uh,
No.
but we were doing all that stuff in the early 90s and just playing games and having fun and making everybody laugh. And it really kind of ruined me as an actor, to be honest, because
No way.
I found out that why would I have to memorize lines when I could just make it up on the spot and get a big laugh?
Okay.
And, that was the kind of thing. So I think that was sort of like the start of the downfall of I don't want to read a script. I don't want to read anything like that. And, there's that real lazy part of my brain that's like, hey, just make it up. It'll be fine. Um, but the Susquehanna Hat Company grew out of the Friday Night Improvs, and the Susquehanna Hat Company became this sort of traveling troupe of uh, it had an interchangeable cast. Are you available to go to do a hat show on Thursday? Yeah, sure. And you would show up with 4 or 5 people at like a business lunch or we were the entertainment at like a business meeting or something like that. And we would just do these half-hour improv games with business people, just try to, get them to break the ice and talk to each other and that kind of thing. So that's where the Susquehanna Hat Company came from. And the Susquehanna Hat Company actually was born out of an old vaudeville or Abbott Costello kind of thing where there was like, I was a member of the Susquehanna Hat Company. And so it was sort of like this callback to the very roots of where, that kind of performance came from. So that's why it was called the Susquehanna Hat Company. Plus, we were in Pennsylvania where the Susquehanna River is. So that's that's why.
Right.
That's absolutely. I mean, I was just listening to the Power Rangers, like, um, sorry, listening to like the Power Rangers side of your story and the reason I thought Dan's question was quite good was because, like it said, it led into for everybody that seemed to be part of the original cast, especially because it was such a new thing. Everyone's story was very different of how they were handled. Obviously, we as kids, what we see this amazing man in a tube with a head, and we see this team of rangers. But
Yeah,
what's going on behind the scenes? All of these things, like you said, your experience was you didn't actually get to be there on the set. You weren't in the
right,
command center, actually in a tube.
right,
You're seeing the other side of it. So everyone's experience, obviously, we know later down the line why we got 3 new Rangers in season 2 because money issues but this phenomenon grew from this all the hard work that people like yourself and the guys started led into this franchise of just everything that it is now. So
yeah.
I'm assuming there must be a like even though your experience wasn't the same as everybody's, a feeling of like you do the conventions now to hear everyone's stories of what you get told about their childhoods being such a great feeling.
Right. I mean, everything that I had gone through up until the point where I was in that audition for that show informed how I played the character because um, had I been in that audition when I was 22, 23, I probably wouldn't have got it because I didn't have the work that I had put into going to school and learning the craft of acting, getting my master's degree in acting. Um, so when I got into that room, I was fully prepared to do whatever they asked me to do. Uh, on one hand, I refer to it as like a wild stroke of luck or a bolt of lightning, but on the other hand, I was very well informed and ready. I had put in the work and uh,
Mm.
I was, you know, and had I not been chosen, I would have been able to sort of like put that aside and go do something else. Um, a younger actor might have taken it a different way. It might have been a real blow to
Yeah.
their, personality or whatever. But for me, it was like I'm going to go in here and do my best, and if they choose me, they choose me. If they don't, they don't. So
I suppose that could be also, they're seeing that maturity of your personality in the performance that you're putting in, that you're the guy and you can carry yourself because that's the attitude you have. Like you say, if someone
well,
younger's gone in there being too excitable, you're like, no, you're not a mentor to a team of superheroes.
I also had the benefit of them sort of leaving that casting decision almost to the very last moment because they were in the last week of filming the footage for the pilot that they were working on, and they hadn't cast this role yet.
Mm.
And so I think on one level, it was also them just sort of like, do you know anybody who could do this? And somebody would call somebody in because when I went in for the audition, it wasn't a cattle call with 1,500 other guys. It was just me and another gentleman. And
Wow.
they said, we're going to cast it tonight. Are you available to film next week? And I was like, yes, of course. But I was very surprised to find that it was just me and him. And so they gave us a brief description of what the character was. He's a 10,000-year-old wizard trapped in a time warp. Go. And I had years of improv under my belt thinking, okay, I can run with that. I can do whatever, and I could hear him in the other corner of the room going over the lines that we had been given, which were basically the lines from the pilot. Um, but he was going a completely different direction with it. He was going with this sort of mad scientist. Power Rangers, welcome to the command center. And I was like, I'm not really sure that's what they're going for. He's 10,000 years old. He's a mentor. He's a leader. Okay, well, to me, this guy sounds like somebody sitting up high on a mountain somewhere. Okay, I'm
Yes.
very
Yeah.
familiar with Greek mythology. I read all of those legends, and we're talking about the birth of a new team of heroes here. So I'm just going to see if I can't put on my best Zeus voice, and I'll do that. And that's what I used when I went in, and that's the voice they ended up using on the show.
I Laferne, I don't know about you because like I listening to that, it kind of, as someone that knows where that character you put this thought process into became what it is and became, a part of the lore that continued. There was always a mentor of that kind. No, nobody ever liked Zordon, by the way. Nobody ever liked Zordon. They tried. I think the closest they had was his, is it from Megaforce? It was
Goes
just the
out.
face. Gozai, that's it. It
Perfect.
was the closest you had, but there was nowhere near what you had. So lightning in a bottle, right, Laferde?
Definitely, and by the sounds of it, it worked out exactly how it needed to as well.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I'm a fan of Doggy Kruger from SPD though. I think
Oh
Oh,
yes,
right, yeah, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yes, yes. Different kettle of fish, though. Like
yeah,
he was
definitely.
able to be involved in the action. As much as Zordon probably wanted to be a part of the team, he had to be overlooking it all and making the
Yeah,
right
yeah. And
decisions.
that's what's really great about the Boom Studio comics and, them
Yes.
taking the time to delve into what they believe was the background of the character because honestly, on the TV show, they never went into any of that. It was just all very shallow, very surface kind of stuff because the show wasn't about Zordon. It was about selling toys to kids so that they could
Yeah.
play with them, and so that's what it was all about. Yeah.
So what you're saying is we should make a prequel series called Zordon.
Well,
Yes.
Sandy Selner and Petra and one of the other ladies that played Alpha, we're like, we're going to do the Alpha and Zordon on the Road show. That's what's going to happen. Alpha's going to get a big RV and Zordon's going to sit in the back, and it's going to be them, driving through the Southwest desert, going on adventures and stopping at Burger King to get a meal, and that kind of thing. That's what we wanted to do.
With the way AI is now, that could actually be a proper animated TV series. And I think that as Power Ranger fans, I mean yourself, when you mentioned on your live yesterday when you were gaming about the Boom Studios, I was like, it's so cool that you've obviously read them yourself to
Yeah.
go through, and they are so good. And it's frustrating that we're in this massive limbo with Power Rangers when realistically there is an easy option for the people, whoever's in control now. Is it Hasbro still? But it's to just listen, give us an animated series of what we've read in the comics or similar. We just a little bit edgier for the grown-ups that were there at the beginning.
My
Give
my
us a new
number
Power Ranger.
Yeah, my number one convention highlight for me is when we got a chance to read Kyle Higgins' Shattered Grid
Oh,
live
wow.
for the audience, and you can actually watch it. It's out on YouTube. But that was the first time that I got to sit at the table and use, I was Zordon at the table, and it was the first time that Barbara Goodson, who played the voice of Rita,
Oh,
we
wow.
acted back and forth on the same table, and Kyle was really great because he had rigged my microphone to have the same sort of echo and electronic special effects on it, so that when I spoke into my microphone, it sounded like Zordon, and Peter, who was sitting next to me, kind of like jumped out of his seat and he's like, "It's Zordon," because he was right there, and um,
It's pretty much how
that
we felt when we saw your name come up to come in.
can I come in? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I mean about the fandom now. Like the way the world is, the way social media is that, I mean, honestly, you coming to do this podcast, I saw you. For me, my side of it was I was literally just gone on TikTok and it come up that you were live, and I was like, oh, let's go quickly see on. And it was I'm actually going to say this. It was diabolical that there wasn't thousands of people watching your video, because there was only a handful of us, and obviously you were fantastically interacting back and forth, and
Yeah.
I was like, I've done this with a couple of our interviews. This will be a big one if I get a response.
Yeah.
Can I just ask the question, and will I get a response? And I won't lie, I screen recorded you saying, all you've got to do is ask. And yes, I'll gladly do your podcast. And I sent it to the guys going, you're never going to guess what's just happened. And Laferde, it was you. Was your response was, I don't care what I'm doing. I will drop everything for this interview. I'm there
Of course,
100%.
you can play it the opposite. Is like, David is so desperate, he'll go on any show. What the heck?
Oh,
We're
no.
never going to sell it like that. We're never going to sell it like that. The fact that, honest to God, we've been doing this podcast, it started with two of us for 4 years now. It's been over 4 years. Last
Oh
year,
wow, that's awesome!
I mean,
Congratulations.
for the first couple of years, up until the beginning of 2024, it was just an audio podcast with two friends. The other guy decided he was kind of done with it. I then brought Tony, Laferde, a couple of other guys on, and we turned it into this video and started doing interviews, and they seem to be getting bigger. And I honestly say, I'm, as a 90s child who is, I'm not even lying, the nerves are here so much right now that this is happening. It's surreal. One of them moments where you're watching yourself looking down. I'm having one of them out of body experiences, because like the guys will tell you, like, what you see here, I've had to put a lot of this is my stepson, who you met previously's collection. All of my collection, which is on shelves, everything other than my helmets, is at my mum's house still, because I haven't put shelves around this house and I have young children. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know if I had my t-shirt around. Thank you, Tony, for having this printed for me, by the way. So this is what I mean. This fandom is something special, and like it's in such a weird limbo. But surely, as someone that's read these comics, like you said, sitting around that table, there's got to be this, like, they've got so many easy options, and it's sad that we've lost some of the biggest parts of that now, and it didn't happen before now. But surely they've got to be at this point going, we need to give them what they want. Like, just give us more. Or let
Well, it's
yourself
very
and
interesting.
others.
The Power Ranger fandom is very passionate. They're very involved, and people have their favorites. They had, and the biggest gripe that I hear is that if they're going to do a reboot, if they're going to do something, please don't make it Mighty Morphin. And I understand that. I get that. But I also can understand that Mighty Morphin is the most recognized version
Yes.
of the show, and it's very iconic as far as the simplicity of the costumes, the design of the white diamonds and the primary colors. It grabs you right away. And there's still a lot of lore that can be explored with those characters. And I know that I think Disney Plus has the rights to it now, or they're negotiating, working with Hasbro to bring some sort of variation of Power Rangers back to life somehow. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, the fans are the ones that keep it going. The fans are the ones that live Power Rangers, and I think that's really, really awesome. I mean, there are so many, you know, when I was first going to conventions, my booking agent would tell me there's the big three. There's Star Trek, Star Wars, and Power Rangers. And every convention you went to, those were the fandoms that you would see in force everywhere. And I see Rangers at every convention. They're, cosplayers. It's just, you can't get away from it. It's kind of like inescapable in some ways. So it's very cool.
It's unbelievable. Even like, I mean, even us three, I would say, Tony. I mean, it wasn't exactly Power Rangers, but a massive part of me and Tony met via TikTok. He was making videos that I was duetting, and it became, because he's all about the 90s. One of our topics was, oh, we're into Power Rangers, and then we became friends. And Laferde, I'll let you tell this story. We have, like, how me and him connected. I hope you don't mind taking the time just to listen to this story. This is, to me, one of the best and most phenomenal ways to meet somebody. Go for it, Rye.
So, I was on holiday in Greece, and I was visiting a friend who was working there at the time. And we walked down the street, and some lunatic ran over the road and grabbed hold of my arm. And he noticed I had a Batman tattoo, and he has a Batman tattoo. Then he noticed I have a Joker tattoo, and he's got a Joker tattoo. He then seen that I have the original 6 Power Rangers helmets tattooed on my arm. So then he turned around and he had the Green Ranger tattooed on him. So he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Ryan." And he goes, "That's my name."
That was the first 30 seconds of us meeting somebody. He was bonding. I literally looked around his body, saw Batman, Joker, Power Rangers, like, we're like brothers, and we've got the same name. And the best part of it, David, is that I was working at a tattoo studio at the time in Greece, and me and Ryan came away with matching tattoos 5 days after meeting each other, having the White Ranger coin tattooed on our hands.
Yeah, I'm jealous of both of you. You guys spent time in Greece. I've always wanted to go there. So.
I've got friends and connections. If you want to come to Greece, let's make it happen. We'll go on holiday together, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was just about to say, you two have had your fun. Me and David are going to go to Athens, and we're going to get a Green Ranger tattoo, and we're going to be besties. I'm going to take that name to David, all right?
No, listen. Uzo shots. Yes, let's. I don't think so. You were brought up in the bit of Britain, so you know the culture we have of lads' holidays over here, right? So we will take you. better be quiet because the missus might hear. We'll take you on one of a proper British lads holiday, and we get to say we spent a week with Zordon. You get to say you had
And
your
then you
first
see
British
the
lads
sequence,
holiday.
snapshots of us in bars, boom, boom, and then me face down in the street, drunk.
just shouting, Rangers, I need you to take me back to the command center now.
Not doing well.
Where's Alpha?
Keep on
Where's
in the
Alpha?
morphing grid.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'm so down for this, boys. Once we finish recording, we'll start looking at flights and we'll make this happen. Take it, because Malia, the place that in Greece it was, is part of. I don't know if you've ever heard of Crete. It's a beautiful.
Yeah, I love
the-
Creed. I mean, I'm an actor. I grew up, theater history. That's where it all started, So yeah, I'm all about that.
Crete is the birthplace of Zeus and also one of the best places to have a party in the whole of Europe. So we can go to Zeus's cave during the day, and at night time we'll be doing shots off each other's bellies.
Awesome.
I can already see it.
there
Like
for
on
that.
Zordon
Alright.
meets Zeus.
And if we don't, every lad's holiday has obviously a fancy dress theme night, and we all have to go as obviously the greatest team ever, the Justice League. Sorry, did I? That'd be just great. Just morph. We'd all go in the morph suits, and nobody would know it's you under there either. That
Right.
would be the greatest.
Exactly.
We just go. What made you go to the Power Rangers? We like it. We watched it as kids.
Ryan, just speaking of that, no one would know it's you. With you being a massive floating head that was kind of distorted. When Power Rangers was growing in height in the mid-90s, was you able just to walk down the street and not have kids like shout, "Oh, that's Zordon"? Like, was you just inconspicuous to fans at the time with no internet as well? No one know who you are.
Nobody knew who I was. No.
And how does that feel as an actor? You're in one of the biggest shows, and is that a good thing? I know. Oh, I'll read and see that celebs go, "Oh, the one thing about my job is I can't go out and have dinner, I can't shop." But that's a part of the byproduct of what you do, right? So how does that feel, being a part of that big show and being able to go out for dinner, go to the shops?
Well, I mean, a lot of actors are like myself, where we are part of this extroverted profession, where we're put ourselves out there. It's our face, and we're doing all these wild things. But I'm actually an introvert. I really am jealous of my time. I like peace and quiet, and I'm not a big fan of crowds. I don't do a lot of concerts. I don't body surf. I don't do any of that stuff. So being able to go to the grocery store or to go shopping and buy a shirt or whatever, and nobody knows who I am, it's fantastic. I love that. I mean, at a convention, it's completely different because everybody's yelling your name at a convention.
Yeah.
And that's when you're able to turn the switch on, and you're the performer, and you can do that, and you can be personable, and you can talk to people and listen to their stories and enjoy what they love about your performance, or what they loved so much about the show. And every night at the end of every convention, I'm just dog tired, because it pulls all the energy out of me. And I'm happy to do it too, because I mean, the fans are what make the conventions. The fans are what keeps the show alive. And without the fans, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be having a conversation with you guys if it wasn't for fans. So I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful. It's also very extremely surreal to be a part of something, because I'm like you guys. I grew up watching television shows, and I admired Lee Majors from the $6 Million Man, or and then here I am at a convention with that guy, and I get to have lunch with him, and it's very strange. It's very surreal, but very, very cool at the same time.
It's nice that like you say, you get to do both sides of it when you're normally at home, because you're not recognised as much, but you get to see it. But I'm sure there must have been moments throughout the 30 odd years of Power Rangers where you've seen a child or someone in a Power Rangers, and you must have walked past and just done something just to give them a little bit of a, what's that?
only at conventions.
Oh,
I never
okay.
do. I never do it outside. I mean, because I'm just not that guy to kind of do that thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
fair enough.
but it's always fun, and and I do cameos, so I get people asking me to do messages and stuff for them, and I'm happy to do it. It's um, it's
Yeah, we.
it's a very, how do I put it? I mean, it's all around great.
Yeah.
There's not really a downside to it, really. I mean, so yeah.
It's ironically you say about cameo because Tony's sorry Tony, me and Laferde have such a Power Ranger bond here. I have to mention that. So I don't know if you remember yesterday during the live stream you was on. I mentioned that I bought a cameo from you before. It was from my friend who is it could be different in your screen, but above me, Laferde. Um, because I saw that you were doing cameos and I thought this would be a great idea to say thank you to him because this guy did what I class as the ultimate gift you could get, and it wasn't even for me. He purchased a Funko from a convention, got a Funko signed at a convention by Jason David Frank,
Yeah.
obviously the late great Tommy Oliver, and had it signed for my son, who at the time wasn't born and is now nearly 5. So just messaged me one day saying, "Can I have your address? I've got to put something for Ronnie." And I was like, "My son that isn't here yet?" He's like, "Yeah, I've had a Funko signed for him by JDF," and like as a Ranger fan, biggest ultimate thing. So obviously my thank you to him was to get a cameo from you and ask you to thank him for me. So
Oh,
thank
you
you for
bet.
that.
You bet. You bet.
Absolute thing, and that's the great thing. Like simple things like that is so accessible now that you get to, like say, give thanks back to people, and these people. I'm sure you've probably had maybe some strange requests via these things, but they mean so much. These little things that you could take
Yeah,
five
I mean,
minutes to
I've had
do.
people ask me, "Could you come officiate our wedding?" And I'm like, I'm, that's not me. I'm, get somebody else to do that. But I mean, what you're talking about as far as like being able to connect, I think we live in an age where, um, you guys are halfway around the world from where I'm at
Yeah,
right now, and we're speaking, we're connecting, and I've had the same thing happen to people who are in Australia or someplace even further away. You know, South America, Argentina, people, we find out that we have so much more in common than we do different from one another. And to me, that's what uh, is what's so great about Power Rangers, because we're known in 40 countries. It's been translated into 40 different languages. We've been able to go around the world and just sort of be a part of other people's lives, and it's mind blowing actually, and it's something that uh, I will remember for the rest of my life. So
you say it gets to get you to have these interactions, and like you said, all you had to do was ask for you to come on the podcast. And I've seen, and I was looking down at some like podcasts, like, you've done loads of these, and like for podcasts, and that's so cool because you know. Yeah, I generally didn't think I was going to get a response from you, let alone a yes. So when I had the chance to message these guys, I knew this conversation was going to go absolutely crazy in their heads. Like, and the fact that it's happened 36 hours after the live stream or so. I think that's the craziest part. And, you know, we're getting to sit here and talk to somebody and ask questions that we thought about and dreamt about. And
yeah,
like you say, conventions. I've been to my first ever convention was to meet Austin St. John, Walter Jones, Davy Jost, and Karen Ashley. That was the first thing, like the first ever con I got to go to. I got to meet four of the
yeah.
original, or three of the original team, and obviously Aisha as well. So just to be able to say I've done that, and because in the last 15 years, I'd say that conventions all across the world have become so massive that we are, as fans, so fortunate to have this.
Well,
Boys,
hopefully, they'll keep going. I'm not really sure what the state of the world is these days. It changes from
Um,
day to day.
yeah,
We'll
literally.
see.
Hopefully, our boys' holiday to Greece is still going to be able to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Get me out of this country. Get me out. Get me out right now.
It'd just be you said about Alpha and Zordon doing a tour. Let's do a tour of Europe. We'll be the
right,
drivers. You guys party. We'll just go along for the ride as fans.
Excellent.
Sounds great. So Laferde, anything? I know you said you only had one specific Power Ranger question, but and obviously I've seen some of the questions you're asking. Anything else burning away while we're here?
Yes. So,
He freezes as he goes to ask.
Oh, the most prolific question ever.
Oh, 1 second, I've frozen my back now.
There you go. It's come back.
So,
Yes.
your new streaming of gaming, I wondered what your favourite franchise would be of games.
Wow. So, I'm a big fan of MMOs. I love the ability to enter into a giant world that I could just explore on my own, going through the environment, seeing what the artists and the programmers have done to bring the world to life. I was a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls series from
Yes.
Bethesda. I played Daggerfall and Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim. I played so much World of Warcraft and EverQuest, and I was a fan of real-time strategy games as well, Command and Conquer, Age of Empires, that kind of thing.
So good.
Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Call of Duty. I didn't really get into Fortnite. I played it a couple times, but I really wasn't a fan of Fortnite. Christopher Kamen Lee, who played Andros in space, we do a lot of games together on PlayStation 5 or on Twitch. We'll play 7 Days to Die, the zombie survival game. We'll play that one. We played a lot of the Far Cry games. Far Cry was an awesome series of really over the top run and gun kind of stuff. So we played those. I think my favorite genre of game is just sort of like this open world exploration kind of stuff. I put in over 4,000 hours playing Red Dead Redemption 2. That game was just, I lived in that game for quite a while. It was so pretty to ride around on the horse and, to sit there and watch the sunset and it's just amazing what they're able to do these days. And, I play way too many video games. So,
There's no
I
such
think that's
thing
what
as
fascinated
too
me. That when I saw it, that was the first message I sent in that group was like, "Oh my God, Zordon's gaming!" And obviously, I think you said that was the first time you game streamed on TikTok, but you do it on Twitch, right?
yeah. I mean, I think after I get off here, I'm gonna message Chris and see if he wants to play later tonight. So we'll see if I'm on tonight. I'm also
Well,
doing another live on TikTok tomorrow. So,
I'll be there. Don't you worry.
but it won't be gaming tomorrow. I'll be reading chapters from my first Lincoln Bright novel tomorrow. So,
That's exactly where I wanted to take the conversation. Yes, I believe you're not just the best floating head in the entire universe. You're not just an amazing actor. You're not just a gamer. You like to write as well, David.
I keep waiting for the Wizard of Oz to slide into my DMs. Hey man, you're taking over my gig. What's going on?
So I thought about this. I thought about the Wizard of Oz. I thought about Marlon Brando as Jor-El. Because we cannot pass that up. Christopher. I mean, I have Christopher Reeve Superman there as well. But
Awesome.
can I just say the journey and what Zordon went through? You win this. Zordon wins this easily because Zordon. He got destroyed. He got destroyed in the end. They didn't.
Mm.
The Wizard of Oz went back home. Jor-El stayed being a floating head. You went through it all.
I know a lot of people, say that Zordon is dead, and I'm like, I'm not really sure that he is because he was a floating head trapped in a time warp, and he was communicating with this dimension through that time warp. The power chamber is how he was able to do that. So when Andros shattered the power chamber and released all of that energy, it just severed his connection to this dimension. He's out there somewhere. You just got to go find him.
I can safely say that you were the biggest atrocity they did not bring back for once and always, because every one of us wanted that to happen.
Yeah,
and
we thought
needed
that
that
was
to happen.
happening.
It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing, but you were the missing link in
I
that.
think
I
I
just
think it would
say,
have been really cool if they had me double the line that Zato says about "May the power protect you," so you could
right?
actually hear Zordon come through Zato. I think that would have been really,
Uh,
really cool. But
Yes.
I do like the fact that Billy was looking for Zordon. That Billy believes that Zordon is still alive and they can find him. I think that's fantastic. So
I mean, it could have gone somewhere with that, couldn't it? There was such a, the anniversary, how they did it with, I'm gonna, why am I thinking Mystic Force? It's what was the last series of Power Rangers? Actual
Cosmic
Power,
Fury.
Cosmic,
Cosmic Fury.
Cosmic
Wow,
Fury. Yeah.
that just escaped my head then. But that was fantastic. Like you said, they kind of brought the essence of Zordon into that as well, that once and always. But you know, that it was so left open that there could have easily been something a year later just to carry that story on. But yes, but back to the writing side of things. You are a bit of a writer yourself, and there's a bit of a catalogue there, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I've always loved the written word. I read so much as a kid. I loved being able to crack open a book and go on an adventure. And so I was always playing around with writing. And because I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, I was always writing adventures and writing quests. And that was part of the thing that I did when I got into working as a game designer, QA tester for video game studios was, you know, going through the text and making sure there were no bugs in the text, making everything was grammatically correct. And so I finally, started to say, well, you like doing this stuff. Why don't you finish one of these short stories that you've started and see what happens with it? And um, I started doing that. I joined a lot of writers groups on Facebook, and there were a number of magazines and anthologies that people were asking for stories from a certain genre, and I was like, yeah, I could write a steampunk story. I could do that, I think. And so I spent time writing some short stories and submitting them, and luckily enough, got chosen a few times to be added to them. And then I started to have an idea for a story that I think needed to be much more than a short story. It needed to be a full length book. And so that's when I sat down in front of the blank page and just started typing away, and Lincoln Bright came to life, and that's where I'm at today. So yeah.
and is this going to be something published like in physical form? No.
The first three books have already been published. You can find them on Barnes and
Okay.
Noble. They're published by a small indie publisher called Caffeine and Ink. And if you look them up on Barnes and Noble, you'll find Glims, Gaunts, and Gifts. And then I'm currently working on book 4 called The Dead.
Would you be able
Wow.
to run me a quick like overall synopsis of what they're about?
Sure. The Lincoln Brights series tells the story of a 30 something, mid 30s something character by the name of Lincoln Bright. Lincoln Bright is what I call an attuned. He's sensitive. He can see and hear things that other people can't. What you might call a ghost, he calls a glim. And the glims are everybody creates a glim when they die. It's leftover negative energy from this life or whatever. And for most of us, those glims are only here for seconds. They realize that their body has passed on. The glims have their moment of realization, and then they just disappear. They fade away. Some glims, however, are so filled with anger and regret or sorrow or whatever monstrous negative energy that they stick, they stay behind. And when they stay behind, they begin to create a gaunt. A gaunt is a almost invisible field of negativity that eats away at the wall of the world. It begins to unstitch the fabric of reality to allow the creatures that live on the other side, who Lincoln calls the dead, uh, to actually have access to our world. And if the dead gets into our world, they reap massive havoc. They are eating machines. They consume and they eat and they cause terror and destruction. And so Lincoln spends his life hunting down glims and making sure that they are uh, taken care of before they are able to spread their gaunt too far to prevent them from unstitching the fabric of reality and letting the dead in. That's what Lincoln does. Lincoln is accompanied by a glim of his own, but he's not really a glim because he doesn't create a gaunt. He's what Lincoln calls a presence, and it's a phantom entity named Tommy Davidson, or I believe it's Tommy Davidson. I keep forgetting the names. Uh, Tommy is this entity that guides him from glim to glim so that he can take care of them. And Lincoln was mentored by an older woman by the name of Miss Trina Evangeline Bailey, who lives in New Orleans. She is this Creole woman that helps mentor Lincoln in his ability to find glims. She's also his worst enemy. When you first meet Lincoln, he and Miss Trina Evangelina Bailey are at odds with one another because there's a group of apocalyptic magicians that are trying to open a doorway to the dead because they want to remake the world in their image. And Lincoln is fighting not only the glims, he's fighting them. And when you first meet them in the first book, you find out that Miss Evangeline Bailey has sort of betrayed Lincoln and gone over to the other side. So he feels that he is fighting a losing battle. And in the first book, he meets a young autistic boy by the name of Petey Marks. And what makes Petey special is that Petey is just like Lincoln. Petey can see and hear these glims, and Lincoln takes it upon himself to sort of like be his guardian to protect him because the apocalyptic group of the magicians are trying to get Petey to use him for their ends. That's basically the arc of the whole series. So
That's I think there's I don't know. There's some bits in there that I could hear. I don't know if it was done on purpose or just subconsciously. A few sort of nods to Power Rangers lore, some Greek mythology in there as well that I could sort of pick apart, and I can really see where your background has come into those books. And
Yeah.
I'm not a massive reader, but I want to see your vision of this, and I think it's definitely a book that I'm going to be picking up.
awesome. Appreciate that.
I can safely say, halfway through you telling that, I don't know if you saw, I got a little shudder just listening to it because I saw like I said, I picked all the stuff we've been talking up to this point. I could sense different bits where you've pulled that from, and that's so cool. Like that's the best way to put passion into it is draw from yourself, isn't it?
To be honest, when I was coming up with Lincoln and he had this entity that was sort of following him, I said, I'll just call him Tommy. It never really hit me until like a year later. I'm like going, oh man, everybody's going to think it's from Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the names was one thing, but you talking about the sorry, I'm really sorry, I forgot her name already, but the lady who's gathered a group, and I was just thinking of like Golda and Finster and all her Rita's troop, opening a door of destruction.
Miss
like
Bailey
that.
does have maybe a very very tenuous tie to Rita, maybe. Maybe.
Do you know? Maybe this is just me just thinking. Well, we spoke about Power Rangers for an hour. We're talking to the mentor of Power Rangers. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan, so yeah, I will interpret that into my fandom. Maybe
That's fine. That's fine.
if it gets you a book sale, take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I hope you enjoy it. Yeah. So.
I think Laferde's over there, but are downloading the books now as we speak, aren't you? You've been seeing them, they're quiet.
Just doing a little look up, yeah.
Do we get Barnes and Noble here? That would upset me if we don't. I'm assuming they'd be on some, because I was looking on Amazon.
I don't know if the first two are on Amazon. I know you can find
Yes.
glims and gaunts on Amazon.
Excellent.
But I think the third one, Gifts, is only on Barnes and Noble, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because the publisher has a problem with Amazon or what, um, uh, but yeah, I love the cover art that they've given for them because it's like this progressive image of this ghostly face that grows more and more decrepit as it goes along. So yeah.
Is that something you're because it's kind of like a otherworldly dark tale. Is that something that you yourself love, like horror or thrillers, them kind of things? Is that something that deep down you always wanted to do or
One of
write
one of my
about?
favorite authors is Stephen King, and
Oh yes.
I've read so much Stephen King. But to be honest, when I began writing, or my goal as a writer was to write fantasy. I
Hmm.
love Dungeons and Dragons. I love stories like Willow and King Arthur, Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. I love that. But as I was going through my life, my adult life, and going from point to point throughout my life, I started to get a really dim view of fantasy stories that I felt like they were sort of lying to us because in fantasy stories, everything works out in the end. The light wins, the dark is defeated, the heroes, are victorious and that kind of thing. And I didn't see that reflected in real life. And what sort of struck me was that we tell these stories to each other over and over and over about how the light triumphs over darkness, and yet in our real lives, darkness seems to win more often than not. And so I thought, what can I do about this? There isn't a whole lot I can do personally to do this, so I had to find a way to sort of defeat the darkness in my own way. And so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll create something dark and I'll have some guy fight it for me. And so that's what Lincoln is. I mean, it's part of his name, Lincoln Bright. He is this guy who is struggling against this overwhelming darkness, but he's doing it on his terms as best as he can. And so I didn't start out to write horror or supernatural or something that's scary because I don't particularly like being scared. I don't like jump scares. I don't like slasher movies. I think it's fascinating to me to go to conventions and see people dressed up as Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers, um, or you know, Jason from
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is it about those characters that fascinates you so much that you have to put on this costume to become them? And I think that's a really interesting psychological question. Why is it that
Mhm.
you dress up that way? And so for me, this is my way to sort of struggle with the forces that are trying to eat us alive.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm writing this.
And that's a very, like you say, you've drawn that again from Stephen King. Like you say, his books, his horror differs in so many different ways that like you've got your not your slasher, but you've got your Pennywise, which is the character that people like to dress up as. But you look at every other book of his horror. There's a car. There's there's a just an entity. I mean,
Well, for
there's
me, the most powerful Stephen King stories have nothing to do with supernatural or horror. Like I'm a huge fan of the Gunslinger series, the Dark
yeah,
Tower, the Roland, the
yeah,
gunslinger, the hero who's moving across, protect the tower. I'm also a big fan of Hearts in Atlantis or The Green Mile, which has,
yeah,
vague, scary stuff
yes,
in it, but it's just this sort of much more life-affirming kind of story. Or what is it? Uh, Rita Hayworth and the redemption story, Morgan Freeman and
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. Right. I mean, it's a story about a guy who will not let the prison dominate him. Well, he's going to get out. He's going to get free. It's a great story, and the new one that's coming out, The Life of Chuck, is just amazing. So I think through the aspect of horror, you can tell some really sort of like hopeful stories. And I mean, I say I hate jump scares, so why do I play a zombie game where they're jumping out at me all the time? I don't know. I mean, it's this
Yeah,
weird
exactly.
sort of thing.
I love your take on Stephen King because um, The Shawshank Redemption comes from the book Different Seasons,
Yeah,
which is where my favorite movie of all time came from. It was called The Body.
the body. Yeah, Stand
It's
by Me.
it's Stand By Me to me is the greatest film ever. Like, amount of times people will say to me, why is Stand By Me your favorite when you like Superman, Batman, Power Rangers, you like all these big fantasy things? I'm like, because you don't understand, like, that's a team of superheroes. There's a team there. There's a aspect of, it's not horror, but scaredness, that these four kids I wished I was when I was that age were going out on that big adventure. It's so simple, but
Well,
yet
that
so effective.
that's the heart of it, right?
Hmm.
It's the kids, the band of kids who go through this thing together and then come back together as adults to do the same thing. I mean, when I first read it, I had a couple of issues with some of the things that happened in the story, but overall, it's great. And Stand By Me is fantastic because it's about the bond of friendship and what you
Yeah.
do to stand up for that. So yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw Castle Rock. I watched that purely just for the references. There
Yeah.
was silly little things like there was an attorney called Chris Chambers, etc., and stuff like that. And I was just, there's a nod to Stephen King, there's a nod to this Stand By Me,
You're
and
not
that.
going to believe
But
this, but you don't. One of my best friends in high school, his name was Chris Chambers.
wow, nice, wow, that's cool. So you've always known that reference as well, right?
Yeah.
You've always used that to him. That's cool. That's absolutely cool. Right. You've sat over there quiet a little bit. Have you? I feel like you're just absorbing all of this in, that still feeling the surrealness.
It is definitely that, yeah. I've spent the
Yeah.
last 2 days running around at work telling everyone I'm going to be talking to Zordon tonight, so I'm just soaking it in.
He's literally sitting in out. Is there any other of your questions that you're dying to ask?
Yes. So, in the different types of the media industry, you've done TV, obviously, you've done theatre production, you've even done a bit of comedy. So I always wondered whether you'd be ever interested in the music part of the industry.
I'm not a musician. I find music fascinating because to me it's magic.
Yeah.
It comes out of nowhere that somebody in their head can hear a melody or hear a rhythm and then find the right object to make that sound and then give it to everybody else. That's to me it's the purest form of magic. I am a huge collector of movie cinematic soundtracks. I have over 750 movie scores. It's the music that I listen to predominantly over everything else. I mean, I listen to music with words. I love songs and,
Yeah.
sing my, favorite songs and stuff like that. But the transcendent journey that you can go on with just a piece of music, uh, I think it's one of the greatest gifts that anybody could give to the world is this piece of beauty, this ephemeral thing that comes from nowhere. I don't know where it comes from, and it fascinates me. I'm no good at math. I'm no good at scales. I don't know how to do it. And partially, I don't want to know because if I did, I think it might ruin some of the magic for me. So yeah, I love music. I can't make it. So, and
But
I
that's what.
think there was some fan who was a hip hop rap artist, and he had this album that he made that was all it had themes from Power Ranger, but I think he used some of my voice, my quotes in there as part of his songs as sort of like the backing track. And I thought, wow, that's cool. I'm part of a hip hop track, and I didn't even know. So,
You're also part of one of the greatest singles that was ever made. I remember the Top of the Pops performance of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 1994 song that was B-sided with the Go Green Ranger theme. That
oh
I've still
wow,
got the cassette somewhere of that.
oh wow,
Yes,
So
well,
let me just,
yeah,
I just need to throw in a little anecdote about that. So that was one of the first. Excuse me. That was one of the first singles I ever bought myself, like with my pocket money, of course. But yeah, as soon as I knew there was a Power Rangers track out, I was down at our price and I picked it up on cassette. And I listened to that on repeat, just play, rewind, repeat. And one session, I was getting very into it. I was jumping all around my bedroom. I was doing spin kicks off my bed and all the rest of it. And it ended up being the first time I ever broke my nose. I jumped off the bed. I jumped off my bed and went to do some like big old karate swan crane kick, and I knee butted myself straight in the nose, landed, and yeah, just in a crumpled heap, just blood gushing out everywhere. And I done my best just to conceal it because I knew that if my mum was like, so you've broken your nose through listening to Power Rangers. There's no way you're going to be watching this from now on. So I just concealed it the best I could. I hid a load of a bloody t-shirt under my mattress. I bolt roll all in the bin. Hid it best I could. She definitely found out at some point because the t-shirt was gone at some like a few weeks later. But Power Rangers lived on in my house. You never knew why.
I don't know if you guys remember, but the Power Rangers actually had to do quite a number of PSAs because they were getting so many complaints from parents about how violent the show was and that they could not stop their kids from breaking their lamps or breaking their furniture because they're out there doing these kicks and stuff like that. So the guys actually had to do like these public service announcements where they were going on, the Power Rangers are great, but don't kick your friend in the face. Don't do that.
I've had a Power Rangers. I've had a Power Rangers incident on a bouncy castle trying to do it. Obviously, the movie was fantastic, and David, I'm not just here to rub you up, but that Zordon, he was okay. He wasn't you. And two things that stood out for me about I didn't like the costumes. I didn't like them being that way. Ryan, you look really shocked. I wasn't a fan of that version of the costumes. I like my costumes being the way they were in the TV show, and no original Zordon really, even as an 8-year-old kid, bugged me because I was like, it's too different to what I'm used to.
Yeah, but why was he in a potato sack? Why was that?
It was very different, and I remember actually as well analysing this in the cinemas when I finally got to see it. Was watching, and I was like, that's not Zordon. That's Zordon, but that's not Zordon. That's not Zordon. That's someone they couldn't. That's a Zordon they could afford. They can't afford the real one anymore. Yeah. So I then took the bicycle kick that Tommy does to one of the statue things. I tried doing that on a bouncy castle about 3 weeks after the movie come out, and really hurt my neck bad. And I don't think I've ever attempted it. Even I'd done a bit of professional wrestling, David, and I never did a drop kick even when I did it because I was too scared to double, because I was too scared of what happened at 8 or 9 years old. So yeah, Power Rangers injured us. Right, did you have any Power Rangers injuries?
No, I've got plenty of other injuries, but non-Power Rangers.
Just my heart, man. Just my heart.
And to be fair, I think that's something, if you don't mind, David, I'd love to. One thing we've not spoke about the whole part of this. Obviously, 2 of the original team are no longer with us, and one of them is very, very recent. Yeah. In this, as someone else, I know you wasn't there to actually meet the team, but obviously at conventions later down the line, you've met, I would believe, most of the originals now.
I met the original cast at the audition, and they were there the day that we filmed my part.
Okay, right.
So they were saying their lines back and forth to me while we were doing that scene in the command center where Zordon meets the Rangers for the first time. So they were there for that, but Twee Trang wasn't there. Audrey Dubois was the original Yellow Ranger.
Yes.
And Jason David Frank hadn't been cast yet. I think he auditioned for Power Rangers, but he didn't get cast, and they brought him back as Tommy mid-season or partway through the season. But I didn't get to meet Twee, and I did not get to meet JDF until I started doing conventions. I didn't meet JDF until 2016, something like that.
Wow.
So all of those conversations that Zordon and Tommy have, not in the same room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I remember you, again on the stream. I remember you saying you hadn't met Twee, but so I didn't realize who you hadn't met. So you probably definitely had never met, for example, the Rangers that came in later to Mighty Morphin, Steve,
Oh,
Karen,
yeah. Well,
and
I've met them at conventions.
getting
Yeah,
later down the line. So
yeah.
that's the crazy thing about this, right? Is it this thing? You're such a big part of this that
Right. And when Steve and um,
Karen
Karen
and Johnny.
Ashley and Adam Johnny
Johnny.
Bosch were on the show, Robert Manahan was doing the voice of Zordon.
Yes,
It was still my
Zordon
face,
by season
but
2,
they were
yeah.
speaking to Robert Manahan, not to me. So, and unfortunately, Robert passed in 2011 before I started doing conventions and stuff. And so, I hate that happened because it would have been really great to meet the guy who sort of got in the chair and took over at that point. But it's just very strange that they continue to use my face throughout the life of the character. I mean, I'm very glad that they did because it's paid off in the long run, and I'm very grateful and humbled to be a part of something that has captured the zeitgeist all over the world. I mean, it's fun or whatever, but it is very sort of strange how things seem to be pasted together from different parts to make the whole thing a whole. So yeah.
I mean, even obviously we know, again, we mentioned briefly talked the show came from a Japanese show, Super Sentai, which was Zeo Ranger. And if we go back to like the talking about dark history, if you actually watch Zeo Ranger, the Power Rangers counterpart, Tony, did you get to the Green Ranger saga on that yet?
I've gone through that now. Yeah, it's that's a whole different beast.
Yeah, it's very very dark. So how they put it together, and that's I've be honest, I kind of wish they'd done more of the Zero Ranger because the story was dark, but also it's nice to have two different multiverse universes of these same characters that we can enjoy different aspects of it.
It's very weird because there is a lot of Americanization that goes on as far as like the TV show and stuff. And again, because America is this sort of strange mix of things, they will not acknowledge that kids are smarter than you think they are.
Hmm.
That kids can handle a lot more than you think they can. So I think, because the Japanese kids who were watching Zoo Ranger were 5 and 6, they were the same age as the guys that were watching the Power Rangers show, but they were also sort of confronted with this sort of real world things happen, bad things happen, and this is, they they sanitized all that for the American version because, of course, they want people to buy the toys. They don't really, they don't want to tell you dark stories about how characters don't always make it to the end or whatever. But yeah, I mean, craziness, such
It,
crazy.
it is, and you say that I like when you said about the kids can handle it. I don't know about the American kids, but us kids clearly couldn't see past anything. But we believed that Tommy's shield never changed from a flimsy, unironed version to that amazing, or the time when you see the Megazord and you see the child stood behind the Megazord. I never saw that as a kid. I never noticed it, or how Tommy as a White Ranger was never really with the team because Tommy was a child in the White Ranger in
Yeah.
the Japanese version, which is fascinating how they deceived us with them kind of things. But what I was getting to was obviously Jason David Frank. Twee Trang, they're no longer with us, and I didn't learn until much later after she'd passed that Twee had passed. But obviously JDF, I was lucky enough with Laferde to meet JDF in Nottingham over here, and he obviously when that passing happened, I know how I felt as someone that I know you didn't get to meet until 2016, but so you only had a relatively short friendship with someone you technically had worked with for 30 years.
Right. JDF was such a great ambassador for the franchise. He was a machine when it came to meeting fans and staying. Last fan standing. He would be there for hours. Talking to people, meeting people, shaking hands, sharing autographs, sharing stories. he did such a great job of uh, bringing everybody in. And so, again, I didn't spend a lot of time with JDF, but every interaction I had with him was great. He was a stand-up guy as far as I'm concerned. And Austin St. John and I were at a convention in Oklahoma, and we had just left the convention that day. We were going to a restaurant to have dinner, and Walter Jones called him, and I heard Austin say, "What are you talking about?" And that's when he pulled me aside. He goes, "I don't know if you'll hear this, but I want you to hear it from me first." And he told me that JDF had passed, and I was like, "What the heck?" Uh, again, it just goes to show you never really know what's going on with somebody in their life. And to everybody, it seemed that JDF had everything going for him,
Yeah.
and to be as young as he was and still in the prime of life, still being in such great shape and setting an example, for everybody that followed him. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how it affected some people. So
Thank you for sharing your story, by the way, of how you found out. That's
yeah.
obviously quite personal as well. But I'm not gonna lie, that I actually just started feeling the emotion because obviously, the scenario we're in here, we're talking to yourself, and boys, we will start to wrap this thing up. But how I discovered what happened was I was with the family. We travelled up to Essex, and there was the rumor originally that something had happened, and I was constantly just checking my phone saying that no, this can't be true, this just the people were not believing it. And then that announcement happened, and it sort of happened as we needed to leave Essex and drive back to the south coast, and my partner and kids all fell asleep in the car, and I just spent the whole 2-hour journey just crying because I felt helpless that my hero that had done so much, one of my heroes, one of these people that meant so much to me, that once we knew kind of what how it had happened or what had happened, was I couldn't do anything, and I felt like I owed him something. And there was I don't know if you ever saw it. There was a podcast that actually made a joke not a week or so after it happened, that about what he done, like how he passed. And I did it. It was my first ever TikTok viral video. These guys made a joke about him passing, and I just quickly. It was a 55-second video. I just quickly clipped the video and sort of went into a rant about this is disgusting. And the community of Power Rangers came together, and this video went viral. And the people that stood together, it was kind of, to me, that was my thank you to him, standing up for him, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. By making this video that, like I said, it took 55 seconds to make this video, but I just needed to say something. And I had messages from so many people. That's, wow, this is really, actually, I didn't think it would affect me so much talking about it. But lads, you take your, how did you guys find out?
I don't remember how. I remember where I was. I can't remember whether I just saw it online or someone messaged me, but I was at work, um, and I was working for a very small printing firm, and yeah, it just felt kind of surreal because the t-shirt that Ryan's wearing now, I set to print just a week, maybe 2 weeks beforehand, um, and yeah, I mean JDF. Do you know what? I won't even lie. JDF, it was important to my life, but Tommy Oliver was very important to my life. I idolized the character. I I grew my hair out just to be like him as a kid. I broke my nose trying to do one of his spinning kicks off my bed. He was super important to me, and the t-shirt that Ryan's wearing now. As soon as that news hit, I changed the way I sold it, and I put all profits made from the t-shirt to suicide prevention here in the UK. Again, like Ryan, just sort of a way of saying, like, thanks, man. Like, this is what I can give back to you. And yeah, JDF, one thing, Tommy Oliver, very important to my life. And yeah, it rocked. It really, really rocked my life, hearing it. And again, David, like you said, he was a real beacon for fans. He was, as far as I knew, he was the first cast member who started doing these conventions and sort of rehashing the Power Ranger name for us kids that are now turned into adults. We see him all tatted up, and he's got a beard now. It's like, oh, so like Power Rangers have grown up, and it's cool to still like him. I feel like he opened the door for a lot of us to come back.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Ryan, what about yourself?
So I remember hearing about him, seeing it on social media, and like you say, checking every so often to see if it was true or not. But when you got like the confirmation, it genuinely felt like someone in your family had died.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's ironic that we're at Easter weekend. I felt like how Christians felt on Good Friday when Jesus died. That was what it was like for me. Like, I obviously met him a few times and had interactions. So it was like, no one ever wants to see the hero fall. That's what it was like.
I think that was the hardest part of it. Was like I say, like me and Tony, he was like, to us, it's like you feel like you couldn't help the person that helped you through so much of life that you would turn to. You're part of this franchise that we all turn to be reminded of what a kid is. I think we got quite deep there, David. It's just, I suppose it's a way of saying how much this fandom means to us as well, and it shows that we all were there when we lost a big part of that. We all come together, and it shows how much this means to us. So,
well, I mean,
yeah.
it's a human thing to admire other human beings' accomplishments and stuff, and the show was made by human beings, and they may have been separated by a TV screen, but they see like you do, they talk like you do, they eat like you do, they go to sleep like you do. I mean, we're not that different. We have much
Yeah, of
more in
course.
common than we do differently, and so I mean that's the great thing about Power Rangers. It's all about standing up for one another. Being there for somebody who can't. And that's what I love about it. So.
Absolutely. David, I do not want to take up much more of your time, so I just want to
another
say,
hour to go.
just another, yeah, we're going to go to, it's 11 o'clock for us.
Hey,
You're okay till 1
if
a.m.
you need to do a part 2, we can do that later on down the road. So.
Oh, I was going to ask you,
Yes.
hopefully
Yeah.
you'd want,
Yes.
by then Laferde would have calmed down and realised who, we're all friends now. We'll have our lads' holiday, then do part 2 and tell the story.
Right.
I
Hey,
love
let's
that.
do part 2 in Greece. How about that?
Boys, you heard that. We've got that. We've got a clip. We've got everything. We've got it. Zordon's coming to party with us. I've got my Red Ranger onesie in the thing that's
I've got
coming
my
with
Yellow
me.
Ranger one here.
You've got your. It's honestly, boys. I mean, we'll all take our turns, but thank you so much. I mean, I hope you have. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and it means everything to have had this conversation with you and be able to share our feelings and thoughts about everything and hear about you and who you are and what it means to you as well.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to meet each and every one of you, and hopefully one of these days we'll meet in the flesh and raise a
please.
glass and just have a good time. So.
Usos in Malia, Crete, yes, Zeus's cave, it's all to come. Boys, please, obviously, I'll let you take your time to say thank you, etc. to David before we wrap things up.
So yeah, thank you so much. This has been a massive honor. It's such a whirlwind. Like just yesterday, we're told we're going to chat to Zordon, and here's David J. Field, and this has been absolutely incredible. To talk to one of the people that I spent so many hours watching as a kid. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I have one very small parting question. We don't have to go into massive detail. I've seen rumblings, but I can't find anything on like IMDb or anything. That one of my favourite films as a kid was Sudden Death. Did you have a very small blink and miss it role in Sudden Death?
I was cast as a waiter in a scene for Sudden Death where Jean-Claude Van Damme's wife was at dinner with somebody. I don't know if the person that she was at dinner with was part of the police or something like that. But yeah, I was cast in, and they had filmed it on one of the boats that goes up and down the rivers that surround Pittsburgh. And so it was sort of like a restaurant on a boat kind of thing. And my line of dialogue was I would go up to the table and I would pour water in her glass and I'd say, two penguins. And she says, I thought the game was tied. And I said, well, I'm an optimist. So
Okay.
because the movie was about the Pittsburgh Penguins ice hockey team, and apparently my character was like a big hockey fan or whatever. But I don't know if it was cut because it didn't add anything to the movie, or if it was cut because I missed my mark, or something like that. Nobody ever. There was no explanation. I was just cast. I got paid for it. They filmed it. But it, as far as I know, it's never made it into the movie. So, but yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Tony's been dying to ask that all day.
Yeah.
Laferde.
So yeah, obviously the thanks for coming on goes without saying, but for me it's more of a thanks for being who you were in that, in that time when you made like a massive part of my life growing up. Even now, like it wouldn't be what it is without you being who you are. So for me, I'm just like yeah, I'm still starstruck right now. So
Yes, and that
I appreciate that, Ryan. Great to meet you. Great to meet you.
it's amazing to meet you.
I generally, with the team, like there's three more other members of the team. Two of them are a bit younger. They weren't real big Power Rangers fans. Ash is another person. He couldn't make it tonight, but me and him bonded over Power Rangers. Me and Laferde bonded over Power Rangers. Tony, it may not have been the first thing, but Power Rangers is a massive part of why we're friends. So thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I have to do our social stuff, etc. Don't forget, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow, do everything. We're doing this now. We're getting parts of Power Rangers. Yes, exactly. Also, if you're a card grader, go to treefroggrading.com and use the code TWD15. And also, don't forget, there is a poster behind me. Wrestling in Basildon, Essex is happening May 31st. Talks with Dorks presents Never Say Die. Once we're finished recording, we're going to try and invite David to this as well. See if he can be part of our wrestling show. Then we put go get your tickets. Tickets links will be available downstairs. And guys, I have been thinking about this part of the podcast all day as well. I'll say see you later. Tony, Laferde, please say goodbye. But David, would you mind giving the final line, whatever you may think it could be, and see us out once I've said see you later? Tony?
I'm Tony of Bingus on all of the above, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, and all the rest of it. This has been fantastic.
Laferde.
I'm the real Laferde on Instagram, and yeah, this is one of the best days ever.
David, please see us out.
I'm David Fielding. I am an author. I'm an actor. I played Zordon. And may the power protect you. For all of the undergrad students who didn't get a chance.
It's Morphin' time!